Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Lili Nishmas, Imi, Merossi, Ruzbas Mordechai. I didn't think I would ever say this. Live from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Unbelievable. Omar Rabbi Yochanan. We're holding the Kuf Beis on Beis, that's right. 14 lines from the bottom. Omar Rabbi Yochanan, L'soichal ha-nefesh im ha-basar, ze iver min ha-chai. So if you look over here, you might be able to see it on the screen. The pasuk of Eiver Min HaChai is V'loisoichal HaNefesh Im HaBasar. We take the word nefesh, we split it in two. HaNefesh Im HaBasar, nefesh, something that's still alive, but when you cut it off, it's not alive anymore. V'loisoichal HaNefesh Im HaBasar, that's Eiver Min HaChai. The next pasuk, Ubasar Basada Trei V'loisechelu. Just want to see. Yeah. The first pasuk actually is the in Parshas Shavua. We just read it on Shabbos. The makar of Eiver Min HaChai. V'loisecha nefesh im habasar. But the next pasuk is in Shmois. Ubasa basad trei v'loisechelu. So Rabbi Yochanan holds Zeh basa min HaChai. It's different than Eiver Min HaChai. Eiver Min HaChai means a whole limb with the sinews, with the muscles, with the bones. This is Machlekes Rishonim. What if you have an aver that has no bones, like the heart, a liver? Okay, but basar is different. Just a piece of flesh, a geshmak, a piece of steak, without any bones, without anything. Min HaChai, from a live animal. So from this pasuk, that this animal is a treifa, shouldn't eat from it. Zebasar min HaChai. Ubasar min ha-treifa. Two halachas. Basar from a living animal and basar meat from a treifa. Why? Because what he learns is ubasar basada, and then he learns treifa leisechelu. So the pasuk is telling us two different things. There's a ubasar basada and treifa leisechelu is a different halacha of treifa. Fine. That's Rabbi Yochanan. So let's pay attention. Rabbi Yochanan says Eiver Min HaChai. The pasuk of Eiver Min HaChai only teaches one halacha. The pasuk of Basar Basada Treifa teaches just two halachas. Rish Lakish says the opposite. Let's see if I can get there. Oh. The pasuk of Eiver Min HaChai teaches us two halachas according to Rish Lakish. The pasuk of Basar Basada Treifa is only one halacha. Let's see inside. Shimon ben Lakish Amar L'yisoichal HaNefesh Im HaBasar Ze Eiver Min HaChai Ubasar Min HaChai. Two halachas. Ubasa basada treifa leisechelu is a basar min ha-treifa. The first pasuk teaches us Eiver Min HaChai, but also basar min HaChai, which are very similar. That's the pasuk of Eiver Min HaChai, says Rish Lakish. Ubasa basada treifa pshutik mashmai. It's only talking about an animal. What's a treifa? What's a treifa? We had a whole parak here. An animal that's not going to live according to one shita for 12 months. It has a hole in the heart. It has. We did a live shechita demonstration in Eretz Yisrael. The sirchus on the lung, different things, different holes, different things. Okay. Now, ochal Eiver Min HaChai ubasar min HaChai. Let's look at the chart for a second. Let's look at this one. If you ate Eiver Min HaChai and basar min HaChai, it's two different psukim. You see, Eiver Min HaChai is one pasuk according to Rabbi Yochanan, and basar min HaChai is another pasuk. So obviously, according to Rabbi Yochanan, you be over on two different lavin. Yeah, there's a hasra, eidim, the whole thing. They warn you. Oh, now let's go to Rish Lakish for a second. Look at Rish Lakish. Basar min HaChai and Eiver Min HaChai is in one pasuk. So if it's in one pasuk, you only over one. Very pashat. Ochal basar min HaChai ubasar min ha-treifa. Oh, so we're in Rish Lakish right now. How many are you over now? Basar min HaChai, meat from a live animal, and basar from a treifa. Two psukim, chayiv two. Let's go to Rabbi Yochanan now. Basar min HaChai and basar treifa, how many are chayiv? One. It's all. Yeah? When you have these slides, it's a lot easier, no? It makes it clear. Ochal Eiver Min HaChai ubasar min HaChai l'rir chayiv shtayim l'rishim v'lokash in chayiv l'achas. Ochal basar min HaChai ubasar min ha-treifa. Oh, basar min HaChai. Did I do that? I did that. Two lines from the bottom. Without looking at any charts, what should it be? Ever menachai is one pasuk. Treifa is for sure another pasuk. Nobody argues that those are in two different psukim. Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. Here, I'm going to show you Rish Lakish now. Ever menachai is one pasuk, and basa treifa is another pasuk. Ever menachai is one pasuk, basa treifa. So l'chayra, if you eat those two, you should be chayiv two. Okay, that it's two different psukim according to everybody. According to Rabbi Yochanan, Rish Lakish, two different psukim chayiv two. Daf kuf gimel amid al. If he ate Ever Menachai, he ate a whole limb, he ripped off the leg of a chai, and it's a treifa, it says before, that's Pashat, Chayv 2. The problem is, what do we do? Why Chayv 1? According to Rabbi Yochanan's Pashat, it's two different psukim, Chayv 2 different Isur. Why in the world Rish Lakish? Let's go back to Rish Lakish here. Ever Menachai is the pasuk on the right. Basa Treifa is the pasuk on the left. How could Rish Lakish hold the only chayiv one? Omer Rav Yosef Likasha. Kam bebehema achas, kam b'shtei behemois. There's a difference between one animal and two animals. B'shtei behemois v'chayiv shtayim. If it comes from two animals, there's a treifa and one animal. And there's an Ever Menachai from a second animal. Okay, Chayiv 2. But if it comes from one animal, that's where Shlakish argues. Why? The problem is, what's the difference if it's one animal? If it's one, it's still two psukim that tell you you're not allowed to do these two isurim. So you should be Chayiv 2 malchus. Why does Shlakish say that if it comes from one animal, you're potter? You're only Chayiv 1. Omar Abaya, we have a few pshatim here. Okay? Hold cup here. Very simple. Everything is simple. Givaldik. This animal was born a treifa. Born a treifa. But when does the Ever Menachai happen? So it depends. There was a machlokes that we spoke about yesterday. Is a live animal the default of a live animal? How do you say default in Hebrew? There's a shiloh, when an animal is born, do we view it as if it's cut up into pieces? Cut up, that's the default. It's chopped up. Why? Because every animal, what do you do with an animal? At the end of Lachamei V'Esrim of the animal, what do you do with it? You chop it up into pieces. So male, it's born chopped up into pieces. Do we view it as if it's chopped up into pieces? Nafgemina, that it's a Ever Menachai the moment it's born. Each Aver is Ever Menachai. You don't view it as it's one animal. No, it's parts. So when this animal, Abai says, is born a treifa. Born a treifa, that means treifa came first. Now, if Ever Menachai comes after it's born, when you rip off a limb, that's a problem. Ein isur chalal isur. But if the Ever Menachai happens when it's born, so when it's born, it's a treifa. When it's born, it's Ever Menachai. So it happens simultaneously. Okay, so let's see inside. Omar Abai kigon shenitir from yitzias ruba. It became a treifa. The birth caused it to become a treifa. Ripped something off. Its lung got punctured while it was born. So maybe it's born a treifa. Mar savar behema b'chayel levarmi medes. The second it's born, it's considered that each aver is by itself, and therefore there's an aver menachai the moment it's born. The moment it's born, it's also treifa, so it happens simultani. V'isur treifa v'isur aver v'isur aver b'adei adodikasu. They come together. And the other Badam says that's the whole machlokes here. He says no, an animal is not born aver menachai. Treifa came first, and aver menachai comes second. You can't put one isser on top of another isser. Let's see what he did here. I'm seeing this for the first time. I apologize because, like I said, on the plane I had internet, but it just wouldn't download. It was born. You see, it's the nitrifa. It has a nail inside its stomach, so it's treif. And aver menachai happened together in one box. The Shokah says no. Aver menachai happens later. The treifa happened first. Aver menachai happens much later. So since it happened much later, you can't put one isser on top of another isser. Once this piece of meat has the isser to it, that's it. It's one isser. You can't put another one afterwards. Another pshat is the kulama behema b'chayil lavli v'amrim medis. Now we're going to go and say either everybody holds like this or everybody holds like that, and then we'll come up with another teretz. The kulama behema b'chayil lavli v'amrim medis. Everybody holds that an animal when it's born is not aver menachai each aver. Ubemeisei Isur Ever Meichel Isur Treifa Kamifligi. Oh, so this is also a sword that we had yesterday and the day before. Ever Menachai is a very, very strong Isur. How do I know? Because it was Asur to Bnei Noach. Before Matan Torah it was already Asur. So since it's so powerful, it could apply itself on top of another Isur. So the animal was born a Treifa. Later on it became Ever Menachai, but it's such a powerful Isur that even a guy before Matan Torah was Asur in it. So Mela, I could put it on top of another smaller Isser. Masava also Isser Ever Chayla Isser Treva. You could do Isser Chayla Isser when it's a strong one. Masava also Isser Ever Chayla Isser Treva. V'hibayseim and another pshat. The good news is if you're not paying attention now, we're going to do this whole sugi again, like a freebie. So either you pay attention now and you don't have to pay attention later, or you can pay attention both. You can do whatever you want. V'hibayseim the kuli alma be'ema b'chayel le'vorim imedis. No, everybody holds that an animal is born as an Ever Menachai. So then what's the problem? If it was born a Treifa and it's born an Ever Menachai, so they both come together. No, we're not going with Abaya. The Treifa happened later on in its life. Could, once the animal is born as an Ever Menachai, can you add another Isser called Treifa on top of the Ever Menachai? Mar Sava Asi V'chayil. You could do Isser Chal Isser. He holds, no, there's no problem with Isser Chal Isser. It's born as a Ever Menachai. Later on in life it became a Treifa. Add another, so why not give him 80 Malchus instead of 40? Umar Sava Asi V'chayil. And the other man says, no, Ein Isser Chal Isser. You can only give him one. Rav Amar Kegoin. Here I have a chart here for this one. What does he say? Kegoin Shetolash Mimeno Ever Utrafa Boy. As he made the Ever Menachai, that's how he became a Treifa. By pulling off its leg over the knee, let's say. Minar Kuva Lamala we learned. Is a Treifa. Okay, so as he pulls off the Ever, he becomes a Treifa. An animal is not born as an Ever Menachai. Therefore, Isra Ever Isra Treifa about the Adadi Kasu. When the animal is 5 months old, somebody ripped its leg off. As he ripped his leg off, he became a treifa and it's Ever Menachai in 1 second. But wait a minute, if he's born with the Ever Menachai, so it didn't become a treifa together with Ever Menachai. But if he's not born with the Ever Menachai, you hold that he's not Leivar Memedes, so the treifa and the Ever Menachai happen simultaneously later on in its life. So we had one pshat that it happened simultaneously when it's born. Rava says no, it happened simultaneously later on in its life. Here comes the freebie. It's the same sugya over again, just talking about something similar. But it's the same idea over and over. Listen to this. The guy wants to be over. He's like a bad guy. He's having a bad day. He wants to show Hashem, This guy, he wants to eat chaylev from a live animal and treifa. So how many yisurim is he over? L'chayr should be over 3. So the Gemara says no, he's only over 2, and we have to understand why. According to Rabbi Yochanan, ochal chaylev minachai, minat treifa. Again, it's chaylev, it's fat that's forbidden. The animal is still alive, so it's mamish ever minachai, and not only that, the animal is a treifa. So you're over on basa basada treifa. Omali Rabami, only chayv 2. Omali Rabami v'lei mamar shalish. Why 2? It should be 3. Shani oimer shalish. What does shani oimer shalish mean? I know in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, the Rabbi Yochanan said 3. So why are you saying in the name of Rabbi Yochanan only 2? Itmanami. Omer Rabbi Yochanan, ochachel menachai menat trei v'chayv shalish. Here it says mefurish. Rabbi Yochanan holds shalish. And Rabbi Chia Barabba says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan shtaim. So which one is it? So we're doing the whole sugi. Rabbi say sorry. Some people are going to enjoy it. It's mamash a freebie. It's easy now. What happened was the moment it was born, it was a treifa. Memela, that's a machlokes. Is the Ever Menachai? did it happen when it was born, or does the Eivir Min Chai happen later? So if it happens later, you're not going to be over an Eivir Min Chai. That's why you're only over 2 of Eiris, not 3. At the moment he's born, there's Eivir Min Chai. So Mamela, the Issa Chelev, Issa Eivir, Issa Treifa, all 3 of them happen simultaneously. But they're Dodi Kasu. You're holding? Okay, so the other animal says no, an animal's not born with Eivir Min Chai. So what was this animal born with? Chelev and Treifa. So mainly only Eivir on 2. It's a Chelev, it's a Treifa. Ika is Eivir loy osi chayil. An animal is not born with Eivir Min Chai. And so what's the shaila? Same thing like we had in the sugi right before. And it literally goes in the same order also. Can Eivir Min Chai jump on top of the other 2 Yisurim? Why should Eivir Min Chai go on top of 2 other Yisurim? Because it's a Issa Chomer. How do I know it's Issa Chomer? Because Bnei Noach were chayiv in it. It's not a good enough reason to put it on top. Or you could go the other route. Say no. Everybody holds that an animal is born with Eivir Min Chai. No, so if the animal is born with Eivir Min Chai, so it's born with Eivir Min Chai, so you should be over in Eivir Min Chai. The treifa happened when it was 5 months old. Oh, so according to this pshat, it's a little different. Eivir Min Chai, you for sure over. Chelev, you for sure over. The question is, are you over the 3rd Isser of treifa? And what's the question? Can treifa go on top of Eivir Min Chai and Chelev? You see that treifa goes on top of Chelev. How do I see it? Because it says in the pasuk, look at this pasuk, the Gemara says, "V'chelev nevela, v'chelev treiva yiyasal chama, v'achaylo yisechlu." Why does the Torah repeat itself? V'achaylo yisechlu. Because if you do eat a chelev of a nevela, you're chayiv 2. You're not only chayiv for nevela, you also chayiv. You're not only chayiv for chelev, you also chayiv for nevela. So that's the. So the Gemara says same idea by us. Midahava chelev. Da'amar mara Torah amar yavo isur nevela yochel alis chelev. From the fact that the Torah says in Pasuk Chav Dalet over here, that you're over 2 Isurim, not just Chelev, but you're also over a Nevela, you eat Chelev of a dead animal. And I'm saying this for you guys here in Brazil, because maybe somebody didn't hear it. There was a lot of confusion when we were learning this. So I want to say this bekitzer. Every animal that dies without Shechita is a Nevela. And it gives Tumah. So a dead horse gives tumah, and a dead cat gives tumah. And so does a dead sheep and a dead cow. They give tumah. But if you shecht a sheep and you shecht a cow, there's no tumah. What about a mouse? Does a mouse give tumah? Obviously. It's a sheretz. What about... So in shrotzim, the Shmoyne Shrotzim, they give Tumah. Let's say a snake is a sheretz, doesn't give Tumah. So in the Shrotzim, that's where people get confused. But in animals, a lion gives off Tumah. A dead elephant gives off Tumah. And even more than that, we have to remember, dead cows give off Tumah if they weren't shechted. Oh. So Meila says the Gemara, Yova Yisin Nevela, Yochel Alisa Chelev. It's a dead cow, but the dead cow has inside of it fat that's also for you to eat. Those fat, if you eat that fat, you're over on 2, chelev and nevela. So Mamela by also v'yava isa treifa yochol al isa chelev. So by also when a person ate treifa chelev Eivir Min Chai, the isa of treifa just like nevela, it's in the same pasuk. You see this? I really should have underlined the chelev treifa yasa, the chelev nevela, the chelev treifa. It's in the same pasuk. So treifa could apply itself to nevela, so too treifa also applies itself to chelev and Eivir Min Chai, and that's why you're over 3. That this pasuk is special. That chelev works like that. Why? Because there are what animal you're allowed to eat all its chelev? Huh? You guys don't know? The chaya. What's a chaya? Like a deer, venison. You're allowed to eat all the chaylev. So since the Torah gave it a heter, that's different than treifa. Aval eiver de lehuda meklaloi loy. So I would say that treifa, it's not chal on it at all. Ki asa, we're holding. Ki asa Rav Dimi. Here we go. Super interesting questions now. You hear what's going on here? It's crazy. You take an Eiver min achai, a kazai is this big of Eiver min achai, chop it in half, and eat one half, and then eat another half. If you were to ask me before I prepared this Gemara, even though I gave share in this last time, I would say, why not? What's the difference? Listen to what Rashi says, it's very important. That's what you said. You said all achilas in the Torah, you don't matzah, you don't have to eat the whole kazayis, swallow it in one shot. You take a half a kazayis, put it in your mouth, half a kazayis, and you yoitza. So why all of a sudden now not? Or Dilma, even the chidushu, says Rashi, explains beautifully. Because this whole thing is a chiddush. When you eat bones of a treifa animal, you're not chayiv anything. You can eat the bones of a horse, you're not chayiv. But the chiddush of Eiver min achai is that you're over if you eat the bones and the sinews of the animal together with the meat. So why is such a chiddush? Maybe, listen, and it's not a maybe. He says, yeah, that's how it is. It's the chiddush. Achila means in one shot, half not, and usually I have to come on to a chiddush. The whole Eiver min achai is a chiddush. Maybe half and half, you're not over. Omar Lei, listen to this. Says Rabbi Yochanan, the Gol Adar, potter. If you eat one half and then another half, even though it's Torch Kidei Achilas Pras, you do it within a few seconds, you potter. So he asks him, and what if he did it in his mouth? He put in a whole kazayis in his mouth, and in his mouth he chopped it with his teeth, and then he ate half and half. That you chayiv. That's also not so posh, says the Gemara. Also, Rabbi Omar, potter. If you divide it up outside, I agree with Rabbi Yochanan that if you didn't eat the whole kazayis in one shot, you potter. But if you did inside your mouth, I have a machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan, listen to this. This is very important. Rabbi Yochanan, this is what I was telling Mati before. Rabbi Yochanan says the main part of eating is what your mouth tastes. Your taste buds. What's achila? What happens afterwards? Once it goes down your throat, it doesn't matter to us. In your mouth. So Lamaisa, he put a whole kazayas in his mouth. He enjoyed a whole kazayas. It needs to go into your stomach. You have to be satiated. And how did it go into your stomach? The wrong way. Half and half. Half and half is not good enough. Elo asked the Gemara a bomb question. Let me just show you this.
How does it ever happen?
Oh, that's exactly what the Gemara is asking now. Ask the Gemara a bomb question. Once you chew it in your mouth, how are you going to eat? You have to chew. And when you chew, you cut it in half. So in the mouth itself, you broke it up. So, and then once you swallowed it, you're telling me it has to be in the stomach, it has to be whole. Mamash reminds me of my mother. I guess all your mothers did this. When you used to fight with your brother, that your piece is broken, the cookie's broken, but in your stomach, it breaks up anyways. I hated when she said it. In your mouth, it breaks up anyways. Oh, taka, breaks up anyways. So you're not eating kizayis. There's a little tiny bone that has a little flesh on the kaf hayerech, on the round part where Rabbi Mitai ben David, if you remember from a few days ago, he went like this, the kaf. So there's a little bone over there, and that you could eat in one shot. If you cut it, he argues on this whole thing. Not true, he says. And the halacha, it seems like him, it says there's a tzion over here, there's a Shulchan Aruch. If you break it up outside of the body, and you eat half and half, you're chayiv. Just because they're not close to each other, these two pieces, it doesn't mean that it's missing in the maisa and the action of eating a kazayis. He ate a kazayis, and so what if it was split? Omer Rabbi Shimon Lakish, I hope you're not eating stuff now. This is ganz gewaldig. You have to eat a kazayis. Now, if a piece gets stuck between your teeth and you didn't floss, so you don't have a kazayis. Why? Because you have to swallow a whole kazayis. You didn't swallow a kazayis. You swallowed minus whatever's between your teeth. We just said, according to Rish Lakish, right? According to Rabbi Yochanan, it's what you taste in your mouth. But according to Rish Lakish, you have to swallow it. It never went down your pipes. It got stuck in your teeth. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, you have to taste it. Afterwards, it went between your teeth, okay, but you're already over on the kazayis when you tasted it. Everybody agrees that you're not over if it's between the teeth. How do you say chanichayim in Portuguese? Chanichayim is like the palate up there. So the chanichayim on the palate on top. Marsava hare nehena groin b'kazayis. L'maisa yarana. Marsava achila b'meyo b'yinon. That's shinayim for sure not. But the chanichayim, that's where you have ana, and is that enough for anything? Like you said, nevela. But we're not talking about not to confuse dailo. Every menachai, nevela, chaylev, all these things. Yeah. Omer Rabasi, Omer B'yochna. Ochal chatzi zayis v'hikiyoi. Oh, gishmak. Some people, you just hear the word, you want to throw up. A person ate a half a gazayis and he vomited it up. V'chozar v'ocha chatzi zayis acher. And then he went and he ate another chatzi zayis. Chayev. My taima. Harei nehena groine b'kizayis. At the end of the day, he had a na in his throat. So Rashi says over here, V'tam shnei chatzoi zeisim. V'ho the Rebbe asi pli other Rav Dimi v'rov and the Amri le'eh mishmei Rabbi Yochanan cholka b'chutz potter. The question that everybody should be asking is, didn't Rabbi Yochanan say a minute ago that if you split half and then another half, you're not chayiv at all? And all of a sudden now he ate a half and he ate another half and now he's chayiv. He says, he's mechulak. He argues on that Gemara over there. And Rashi just goes on to explain something very special. That what we're talking about, enjoying it, benefiting it, like a piece of chocolate in your mouth. Right? He already tasted the two halves. So what if it's one after another? He had a good anah in his mouth. It was still within the amount of time that he's supposed to eat it, within 3 to 9 minutes. Now Rashi's mechadish that when, according to the shita, that you have to have a benefit in your kishkas, then it means to be satiated in the mayim, not to taste it in the mayim. So if a half went in, and then you spit it up, and then another half went in, that's not satiated in the mayim, and that's why. And on that, it's considered only eating a half a gazayis. Says Gemara, Boy Rebbe Lozer Rabasi. Ochal chatzi zayis. So Rebbe Lozer asked Rabasi. So we have to remember this. Rebbe Lozer seems to be the Talmud of Rabasi, the Rebbe. Ochal chatzi zayis v'ikiyoi v'chozar v'acholoi mau. Oy vavoy. Ma'ikam Boyle. What's the question? You have equal. You have equal. What's the question? Whether that's considered digesting it or not. So then he should have asked why half a kazayis and ask on a kazayis. If a person ate a full kazayis and he's chayiv malchus, and then he threw it up and he ate it again without knowing, he didn't chap that he threw it up for whatever reason, is he chayiv 2 malchus on the same kazayis? Elo, so you should bring a raya from Rabasi that what? That has to do with the mouth, with tasting it. Says Gemara, Rabasi Gemara Yakelei. So Gemara tells us a ma'aseh here. Rabasi forgot his learning. We see it by Rav Yosef. A lot of, you get older, unfortunately. He forgot his learning. So he didn't want to be rude, Rabbi Lazar. He didn't want to you said it. So he, sometimes when people forget, a little hint, that's all you need, a little something. So then he said, why do you asked him, why do you need another half a zayis? You should have asked in the whole zayis. You learn 2 things from here. First of all, the fact that if you throw up a whole kazayis and eat again, you chayv 2, you see that that's not considered digesting. What's the word I'm looking for? Digested. V'shamina mino, The harinena groin mikazayis. And the reason why you're chayiv, you need two things. First of all, it has to be that it's not digested, and also you have to have anah both times. So you see both things. Ishtik v'loy omar le v'loy midi. So Ravasi didn't answer him. Omar le, so Rabbi Elazar said, Moifes hadar, you're the Gadol hadar. You gave him a little covet. You're Gadol hadar. Lizinin sagina amar kamei de Rabbi Yochanan. Didn't you say this halach in front of Rabbi Yochanan? V'amar lach harinehen groin mikazayis. I'm going to remind you that you yourself said this to Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan said you had enough from the Kazais. In other words, he's masking Yichayv too. Hadron aloch gidanoshe, hadron aloch gidanoshe, haraloch gidanoshe yishkoyach. Have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDY.com.